screen. Samira, shall I start, or would you like to say something?
I think we should start as Dr. Abdullah has mentioned, because we're almost 7 minutes. So
okay, no worries.
You can start.
Okay. Hello and welcome again. Thank you again for the Mycetoma Research Club for having me again. So today is sort of a continuation of the session that we had, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago. And it's mainly about discussing open science, which is currently gaining a lot of momentum all around the world. So I'm Lamis Elkheir. I'm a research assistant at the Mycetoma Research Center, and I'm also the co-director of the African Reproducibility Network, AREN. And this presentation is part of an initiative that we've launched, which is called Open Science Bites, where we reach out to communities or members who are not part of our community and give them a bit of an overview about what open science is. So yeah, this is part 2, but we'll go quickly through what we said last time. So we discussed what open science is, and we said that basically open science means that knowledge becoming a public good, knowledge not belonging to a certain group of people, to elite people, while others don't have access to. So this is the whole idea, or the core principle that open science is trying to do, is making knowledge accessible and usable by everyone and anyone who needs it without having to face any financial barriers, any accessibility barriers. And we talked about the fact that we could view open science as a building, because there are many things that make up open science, and we can look at these things or these parts as a building. So we have the basement of the building, or the base of the building. It's made of open science principles and values, and these are sort of the values are the ethical and moral beliefs that everyone who's within the open science community should have. And the principles are the guidelines that the open science community abide by. And then we have the pillars, sort of, or the walls that are holding the building together. And these are the open science pillars. And these are sort of the fundamental components or categories that form the open science community. And then finally, on top of that, we have the roof. And the roof is basically the community. So the open science community cannot exist unless we have our open science pillars and principles and values. So the community is sort of also the roof that is holding. Is there a question?
No.
Okay. So the community and collaboration in the community is sort of the roof that is protecting everything and holding everything together. So I just wanted to recap on this quickly, and reiterating that open science is made of values, principles, pillars, and it is practiced by the community. So last time we talked in more details about the pillars and the values and the principles. You could refer to the recording of the last session. But now we want to talk about what are the benefits of open science. Why is it a big deal? Why is everyone now talking about, science having to be open? So the first thing is that open science improves research efficacy, and it does that by increasing accessibility and decreasing the cost needed to do research and to access research. So basically, when you practice open science, you will find that actually science will become more efficient, it will become more accessible, and it will cost less. We don't have to pay as much, for example, to access a certain paper, to get a license to a certain program that we have like access to for 1 year and then having to reapply. All of these things are currently practices that open science is trying to discard. The second thing, or the second key benefit of open science, is improving the research quality. If you remember, we said one of the main issues or one of the main factors that triggered the movement of open science was the reproducibility crisis, meaning that when scientists were trying to reproduce or redo the work of other scientists, they were failing. They were not coming to the same results. They were not coming to the same conclusion. So this became a big issue because, we rely on findings of other people to build our own studies. And also it extends to policymakers. Many policies are made based on the findings of research and studies. So if these studies are not reproducible, then this is a big issue. But then what open science does is that it enhances the transparency. Even from the very beginning, from the research idea, you can do something that is called pre-registration, meaning that once you have your idea together, you go to a certain platform, just like the clinical trials. There is pre-registration of the clinical trial. There is also now pre-registration of all research. And the idea of that is that from the get-go, the researchers who are doing the research are transparent about their study, their plan. There is even pre-registered reports where you even transparently put everything that you want to use in the research, like the data collection method, where you're going to store the data, how you're going to analyze the data. So all of this transparency that open science is encouraging people or scientists to do is increasing the reproducibility of the research, meaning that the research quality increases and we can trust the research that is open more, because we can see all of its components as it's evolving. The third benefit is that it accelerates the discovery and innovation. It makes sense. If the information are accessible as soon as they are found, you don't have to pay for them, you don't have to go through a certain process to find these results, then it means that the dissemination will increase. More people will be able to access this information. More people will be able to apply or use this information. So all in all, open science accelerates the discovery and innovation of scientific research. And finally, what open science does and what is open science is fostering collaboration and global participation. If you remember, we said the open science, we could think of it as a building, and the community and collaboration is the roof over that building. So this is one of the key components of open science. And what open science does is to decrease the barriers, because now we see research being done sort of in silos. Researchers are working in silos as if they are in isolated island, even like not taking geographically, but even in the same institution, you find groups of scientists who should be working together, but no, they are sort of competing together and trying to eliminate each other. But open science, of course, condemns or rejects this practice and encourage collaboration and participation, because when you hold hands, you're able to do better research and research with bigger impact. So what open science does is it tries to decrease the barriers and also increase the inclusivity. It is also looking at scientists who've been neglected over the times. For example, early career researchers, many of the times they are excluded from the research practice, indicating that they don't have enough experience. Or for example, collaboration, let's say, between the global north and the global south. like the global north don't trust the scientists in the global south, and vice versa. So again, open science is trying to create a community where everyone feel included. No barriers should prevent a scientist from participating in research. So these are the key benefits of open science. I'm not sure if there are any questions. Please feel free to stop me at any point, and I'll be happy to address any questions or comments. Okay, so now we come to the barriers and challenges. So we all agree that this is a beautiful thing to do. You know, these are all very good benefits that would come of open science, but when we come to the ground, there are some barriers and challenges, and we're mainly at AREN, we're focusing on the barriers in Africa, within the African continent. So what we did in order to try to figure out what these barriers are, because the first thing is that we have to know the barriers or the challenge, and then try to find solutions to mitigate these barriers and challenges. So what we did is that we have asked our community, our AREN community, which is made up of African researchers from over 29 African countries. So we asked them, in their opinion, what is the biggest obstacle to participate in open science in your field or your community? Because we wanted to hear from the community what barriers are they facing. And these were the results. So to look more closely, the number one barrier, as you can see, that was chosen by 85% of our community, was the lack of awareness and training. It's like within the African continents, there is not much training programs around open science and the different tools of open science. And this is why we started AREN. We started the African Reproducibility Network, is that we wanted to increase the awareness and bring training to the African research community. The second biggest barrier was the insufficient local or regional open science communities or networks. We know that when you're trying to effect a change, especially as most of us know that the African communities or the scientific community is a bit secretive, you know. Everyone is trying to be closed. Everyone is trying to preserve whatever ideas or resources they have. They don't want to share it. And of course, this is understandable, because in Africa, we do have a substantial problem with access to resources and infrastructure. But we have to acknowledge that this will only keep us from advancing, not advancing us. So one of the main concerns was that if I want to practice open science, there are no communities around me or networks that could support me and help me to practice open science. And this is why also at the African Reproducibility Network, we started a training program that is called the Local Network Leads Training Program, which Samira, our lovely host, is a part of. And the idea is that we want to create this community, you know, we want to create a community of African scholars who are well trained in open science, but then they don't feel alone. They know that they have a support system around them that will help them in mitigating any challenges that they could face. Then more other barriers came out, which is, for example, inadequate policies or support from funding agencies. There is also a lack of infrastructure or tools. There is concerns about intellectual property or competition. And as I said, this is a big issue in Africa. We're always afraid that our ideas will get scooped. And unfortunately, this happens. But believe it or not, open science is actually helping prevent this from happening, prevent scooping and prevent competition, and encourage everyone to work hand in hand. Then, of course, we have economic constraints, and this is shared across many African countries that limits the access to, for example, open science platforms that might require a subscription, for example, or certain tools that they don't have the ability to get training on. One of the major issues as well is the institutional or cultural resistance. As I said, our culture in Africa, unfortunately, is a closed culture, is a competitive culture. So if you come and say that I want to be open, then you will be sort of bombarded with resistance from your institution and your culture. And this is also one of the reasons why we did the local network leads training program, is that we aim to hopefully, of course, our dream is that within every African institution, we will have at least one person who is trained in open science, and hence he will be a leader of that community in open science, and that the institution could utilize in order to enhance their open science practices. And of course, one of the common issues is the access to internet or electricity. And this is something we've seen in the training program. Many trainees were not able to join due to lack of internet access or blackouts in electricity. And this is also an important issue. And then we have the legal and ethical issues and also the language barriers, because unfortunately, the scientific community is dominated by the English language. But we know that Africans, not all Africans speak English. We are rich. We have a rich culture of many different languages. So it's unfair that most of the trainings and most of the things that are happening out there are conducted in English. And this is why also one of our goals from in the African Reproducibility Network is all of our training materials, we will try to translate it to hopefully all of the African or the all of them to all of the African dominant languages, so that we increase the accessibility and we remove at least this language barrier. Okay, so are there any questions? And I hope I'm not talking too fast. Are there any questions, Samira?
Yeah.
No.
Thank
No
you very
questions
much.
are in the chat.
Thank you, Samira. Thank you, Lamis.
Okay.
How can open access
Mhm.
can help reduce competition and can support the intellectual property? Suppose I have an
Because
idea. Suppose I
okay.
have an idea,
Mhm.
a novel idea.
Mhm.
I put it in the whatever there,
Mhm.
and then I was not able to execute this research due to infrastructure, resources, and this and this and this.
Yeah.
Somebody else is going to see the idea, and then I can start the project, and I'm going to lose the ability to be the investigator of this idea.
Yeah, I do get you, and this is a concern that we see a lot and we hear about a lot in AREN, and it's true. That's why we encourage, that's why we say that not all of the open science practices are applicable to Africa, you know?
I have a concern, Dr. Ramiz. You have repeatedly mentioned that these challenges and barriers only associated with Africa. I don't agree with you. I think this is like the human nature, and everywhere you will find this type of resistance against sharing ideas and having like an open science.
Yeah.
It's not only Africa, but because you are in Africa, maybe you are mentioning Africa a lot. But I will give just like a brief comment before you go ahead to what Professor Fahal said. If you don't share your materials, whether it's a research idea or a research result, actually you are not going to participate in or practice an open science or open research at all. And I will give you a single example. If you, for example, sequence a microorganism like human genome or bacterial genome, and you just keep it at your desk, nobody is going to benefit from this sequence. But it is now mandatory. If you would like to publish any article, you need to submit your data first to the NCBI data in order to be available publicly to everyone who would like to take your data and do additional research. So why not to share also the research idea if you are not able to do it and to conduct it, and give a chance to someone else to take it over? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Abdullah and Professor Fahal. I couldn't agree with you more, Dr. Abdullah. It is a global issue, but we have evidence that shows that the global north is leading the way in being more open. Like this is proven from research, many research. And I'll give you just a simple example. AREN, we've started now, we're almost 1 year old. And believe me, we've tried so much to reach out to many African stakeholders and African open science communities, and we were pushed back. We were pushed back, you know? So this is mind-boggling that even a community or an organization that claims that it is practicing open science do not want to collaborate. Yet, for us, we have over 20 global collaborations so far from the global north. And these people have been a key in the success of AREN at this very short time. So I can tell you from real experience, from real lived experience, just in trying to establish AREN, the African community, it's difficult to work with. It is very difficult and frustrating to work with. And everyone is trying to be the first, you know, everyone is trying to scoop the ideas of the other people and so that they will say that, oh, we were the first that did that. And this is very frustration. And it's even led us to the point that now we halted all of our attempts to trying to reach out to other African communities, unfortunately. But because we found that we are doing a lot of effort and we're getting nothing in return, while, for example, just sending an email to another organization in the global north, a very short email, they reply with pages of email and they schedule the meeting and they try to give you everything that they have to help you and support you. So unfortunately, it is a bigger issue in Africa and the global south in general. But it is like the issues are really being worked out in the global north. And coming back to Professor Fahal's question, yes, as Dr. Abdullah said, the idea of open science is that, you know, you're trying to move from the idea that I want to be the one who do the work because I want to get the credit from, into going to the idea that, oh, I know that this work will help my community, will help humanity. So even if I don't have the capabilities to do the research now, I will put the idea out there and hopefully someone who is more, has more resources and more infrastructure will be able to do it. But then, for example, if you pre-register your study or pre-register your idea, you will always have a stamp in time that you can go to and say, oh, I'm the one who came up with this idea. So someone might do the work, but the intellectual property of the idea will always be yours. It's a stamp in time and everyone could see and no one could dispute. So I hope that this answered both of your questions, Dr. Abdullah and Professor Fahal.
Thank you, Lamis.
Thank you. Okay, so now we move on how we can overcome the challenges and barriers that we talk to. And of course, this needs a multi-facet approach. It cannot be one solution. It has to be a combination of solutions that would work together to alleviate the issue. So one of these are promoting awareness and education. Again, just like as we are here, this very beautiful discussion that we've just have is very important for our community to have more awareness about the issue. And we can do that by trainings, workshops, and even the global north are now incorporating open science in their undergraduate curricula. So just as students are taught about research methodology, they are taught about open science. And so hopefully we would reach a stage in Africa where we could do that. The second thing is establishing and strengthening networks. As I said, when you're alone trying to do open science, you will find a lot of resistance. That's why it's very important that you find a network around you that would support you. This is why open science encourages creating local open science group and even formed regional consortia. And this is the main aim that we established AREN for, or the Africa Reproducibility for. Again, fostering collaboration and partnership. Initiatives or people should partner with international networks. They should partner with national networks. They should participate in global open science events and engage stakeholders and the public in order to enhance the adoption of open science. We also need to invest in infrastructure and technical support, and this is one of the key issues that we need to work on in Africa, is that we need to invest in open infrastructure. For example, repositories. For example, every university in the global north have an institutional repository, but you will be surprised to find that almost the majority of African institutions don't have an institutional repository, which is a big issue. And then we could also standardize some of the practices that we use. Then we could also establish financial models and policies. So one of the biggest issues is that in the open science movement is that it's currently run based on volunteers. You know, even at AREN, we are not currently funded. We are volunteers trying to spread awareness, but this is not a sustainable model, you know, because over time, life catches up to you. You have some responsibilities. And already in Africa, we are overburdened trying to do so many things at the same time. So the great lack of funding to such initiative, open science initiative, should be changed and should be encouraged. And it's good to see that now more and more funding bodies are trying to fund and support these open science initiatives to make them more sustainable. We should also start creating legal and ethical frameworks. Of course, when you have sort of policies and legal framework that sort of governs the open science movement, it makes it more easier to adopt and will sort of decrease the resistance that it would face. Again, we should create a culture of change, of incentivization. Currently, the scholarly system rewards scientists based on the amount of publications that they have, not necessarily the quality of the publication, but this is a big issue worldwide because now the world is shifting to what is called alternative metrics, which is using other measures of success than, for example, the number of publications that a scientist have. We could have another, like this is a whole other topic, allometrics or alternative metrics, but the open science movement is trying to encourage the scientific community to move away from only depending on the number of publication and moving to other systems of incentivization. And this is important because not all researchers have access to the same resources. So for example, if you are in a researcher in a very small town in a remote area in Africa, you definitely don't have the same tools that would help you to conduct research as, for example, a scientist that is in the main city or the capital of that country. And this should not be something that would be taken against you because you did not choose to be put in this place. You know, the circumstances have put you in this place. So whatever kind of contribution that you do to enhance the advancement of science should be taken into consideration. Then finally, and this is very important, and you've heard me say that a lot, I think collaboration, you've heard it a lot. Inclusivity and equity, you've also heard it a lot because these are one of the major issues in open science is that it wants to promote inclusivity and equity. As we said, for example, we can develop and disseminate open science resources in local languages, and this is what we're trying to do, because it has been proven times and times that when you speak to someone in their local native language, their level of comprehension and understanding to a certain topic is much, much better, even if they were fluent in, for example, English. So this is a very important thing. And again, supporting underrepresented groups. We need to encourage them to participate in research and acknowledge even the small efforts that they're trying to do to improve the research outcomes of their community. Okay, I think I took so much time. I don't know if you would like me to continue, or should we stop here?
No, I think continue. This is
Excuse
a very
me?
important.
Okay,
Continue,
continue?
please. Yeah, this is
Okay,
a very
okay.
important topic.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you. So now we need to move to the global open science landscape. We need to just a quick overview of what's happening around the world. So the global landscape of open science is characterized by a rapidly evolving framework of policies, initiatives, technologies that are designed to make scientific research more accessible, transparent, and collaborative. And this landscape involves many stakeholders, and these stakeholders are government, funding agencies, research institutions, libraries, publishers, research community, and even the public. As we said, one of the things that open science, and one of the pillars of open science is called what is called citizen science, where citizens themselves could contribute to produce scientific knowledge. And currently the biggest organization that is currently working on open science is the UNESCO. The UNESCO is trying its best to make open science a norm all over the world, and it has even issued a recommendation on open science. And you could easily just search UNESCO recommendation on open science, and you will get a big document in which they talk in much details about open science. And after the UNESCO have launched their recommendation on open science, there are 11 countries, mainly in the global north, of course, that have introduced open science policies, strategies, legislative frameworks after adopting the UNESCO. So it's in these countries, it's up to a national level, like the whole policy of the country is now revolving around open science, and this really speaks volumes of how this is becoming very important. And also 54% of institutions in Europe have an open science policy, and 37% are currently developing open science policies. And you'll be surprised to see that this brings me back to your question, Dr. Abdullah, or your comment. We are behind in Africa. Also, the Center of Open Science, which is also one of the leading organizations that is working on open science, and they have created a very clever factor that measures the adoption, the level of adoption of open science within a certain institution. So they're trying to compete with the impact factor and the general classification of the universities that we have, which is based on the number of publications. So they're trying to, and they're still adapting that. They've designed something called the top factor, and it is based on how, it's a metric that based on how institutions are adopting open science. And there are over 5,000 signatories globally. Also, several funders have established open access mandates, and if the people who receive this funding fail to go with the open science open access mandates, they will withdraw the payments. One very famous example is the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. As you know, it's one of the biggest funders for research. And now Bill and Melinda Gates will not give you funding so that you can pay for article processing charges. They will not give you that. But on the other hand, they mandate, they require everyone who they funded and every research output that that has come out of this project to be posted as a preprint. And a preprint, we can talk again in much details about what a preprint is, but now they are not at all supporting article processing charging, and this is a big change, and I think many funders will follow the Bill and Melinda Gates. Also, one of the leading organizations that is currently adopting open science is NASA. And of course, all of us know what NASA is, and NASA has even declared the year 2023 as the year of open science. So you can see how important it is. It wouldn't have been adopted by such globally impactful and important organization if it was not important and if they did not see the importance in it. So there are several communities for researchers that they could join in order to learn more about open science and be involved more in open science. And what we say is that you should be involved in as many as you can, because it's very important that you get different perspective from different communities. So for example, we have the reproducibility networks, which our network is part of. We have eLife, and eLife is actually a publisher, a big public publisher, and they have many programs that support the training on open science. And for example, the eLife Community Ambassadors program is the program from which the African Reproducibility Network was born. So there are the Community for Rigor, the Center of Open Science, Reproducibility, and many, many others. But these are only examples for you to look and join their communities and join the conversation. There are also many resources and toolkits that you could use as a scientist in order to learn more about open science or practice open science. For example, we have the Open Science Framework, and this is a very nice tool that we're currently training our local network leads on. We have the Tuning Way. It has like a very big book that talks in details about all of the open science aspects, and all of these communities have resources that could help you in being more open. But when we look at the African landscape, it is starting to grow momentum. It's still lagging behind, but we are getting there, thankfully. But the landscape, as I said, reflects the unique challenges and the dynamic opportunities that are presented across the continent, because we have to acknowledge that we have some unique challenges for us in Africa that maybe the global north don't really encounter. So maybe this is why the momentum is only just picking up, and this is why we should have more of these conversations so that we can pinpoint the issues that we are having, and so that we can then find solutions for these issues. So regarding policies, something that is very good and very positive is that the Science, Technology and Innovation Strategy for Africa of 2024 had several recommendations based on the UNESCO recommendation of open science about open science that they're trying to adopt or put on the roadmap for the year 2024, which is a very good step in front. And there are some countries that are leading the way. So we have national open science roadmaps that are currently being worked in Cote d'Ivoire, Ethiopia, Ghana, Mozambique, Nigeria, Somalia, Tanzania, and Uganda. These are countries that are currently sort of leading the way in open science movement. And we really hope that it does not turn into competition, because unfortunately, this is what happens in Africa. It suddenly just becomes a competition where the African country want to say that, oh, I'm the first African country to do that. I'm the first African country to do that. But by spreading awareness, we're really hoping that the open science movement does not move forward with this mentality in mind. Rather, we should look at these countries as examples and sort of ask for help from these countries who are leading the way to help our countries in sort of finding our way in open science, rather than competing with each other. So as I said, there are many initiatives that are working around open science in Africa. You have AREN, of course. You have the Open Science Community of Nigeria, Open Science Community of Egypt, BID Alliance. There are so many open science community. And I'm really sad to say that we are not really have collaborations with all of them, because there is a bit of a competition now in the open science movement, because it is gaining momentum. And we still have that mentality of, oh, we sort of need to compete instead of us needing to work together to move forward the movement. So by that, I'm so sorry that I took so much of your time. So I'll be happy to take any questions. But before that, I just wanted to tell you, if you've missed the first part of this series, where we talked more about the open science values, principles, and so on, we're going to do that again in collaboration with Authors Aid on the 27th of September, and you're all welcome to join and register. I will just share the registration link with you here in the chat. So if you like to go there and register, it would be great. Yeah. And thank you so much for listening, and sorry for taking so much of your time. I wonder if there are any questions. Okay.
Thank you so much, Lamis. I see there's a question in the chat by Tasabih.
Okay.
So she's asking about the quality of publications in open access journals. And she's also asking about, does open science have any disadvantages, and how she can join AREN?
Okay, thank you, Tasabih, for your question. Yeah, open access is really enhancing the quality of research, but unfortunately, there is still an issue, because you can have a publication that is open access, but then the data are not open. So the raw data that the researchers use to come up with these findings are not open. And I'm also sad to say that the open access system is becoming really problematic. It's again leaning more into quantity, because it's a lucrative system. I've actually done another talk a few weeks ago, and I can do that again, where we're trying to promote for preprints using Africa. The amount of profit that these journals and publishers have is in the millions, if not billions, each year. So unfortunately, it's becoming a business model, and this leads to more and more research not really being vetted. And also the issue of that you have a research that is only, for example, reviewed by 2 or 3 reviewers, but there's a great chance that these reviewers would miss something. And for example, according to Nature, only last year, there are more than 10,000 researchers that were retracted from open access journals, which is a big issue, you know, and this is what open science is trying to avoid, and what preprints is trying to promote, is that having 2 or 3 reviewers is not enough to detect issues in the publications. You need the global science community to look at the publication, and then they will be able to easily pinpoint what the issues are in this publication, instead of this publication being pushed forward, being cited, being used in building other research and policies, and then after many years we come and say, oh, there is a major issue in this article, so it's retracted. So I hope I answered the first part of your question. Does open science have disadvantages? To me personally, and you shouldn't, I don't know, maybe I'm not the right person to ask, because I'm so pro open science. But for me, what disadvantage could be? It's only about enhancing collaboration, enhancing inclusion, making everything more transparent, making everything more reproducible. So I don't really see a key disadvantage in it, but there could be. As I said, what we're trying to do at AREN is trying to see what are the unique challenges in the African continent, because there are things that would be challenging to adopt in Africa compared to the global north. But as far as I see currently, I don't see any disadvantages on it. And one other thing about open science, it's a spectrum. You can start by one step. You don't have to do all of the things that open science mandates, but you can start only with one, like trying to change one or two practices, and then you will find yourself becoming more and more open. And about joining AREN, yes, you could definitely join AREN very easily. I will share the form, the registration form for AREN. It's a very simple, short form, and then you will be part of our community. You will receive overall newsletters and everything that we do within the community. So I hope that this answered your question. Okay.
Yeah.
Fahar, if you'd like to say something, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much, Lamis, for their elegant, nice, as usual presentation. And I'm glad that now we're having this series on open science. Definitely, open science will have problems and disadvantages.
Yeah.
And disadvantages may not be seen right now, but eventually, over the years and time, this will be very clear, and people, they know what is the problem, and they try to mitigate and find solution for these things. So you cannot say there is no problem, there is no disadvantage. Oh, definitely anything anything around has advantage and disadvantages.
Definitely. Yeah. But as I said, we're trying to see those disadvantages that are especially for the African community. And this is why having these conversations is very important. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. As I mentioned, that if you have a nice idea, but this was for any reason you were not able to execute this idea and conduct the research. When somebody did that, it may not be done in the way you was thinking about doing it. And competition will continue. No way competition will come to stop at some stage. You have to compete to improve the quality of things, not to destroy other people. Community, you want to help other people, you want to move forward, you want to help others. This is a competition with other people. And this is life. Competition is part of our life. Otherwise, if there is no competition, everybody will be stagnant, just sitting around doing nothing and looking at what is other people going to do. So the competition should be for the better, not for the
constructive. Yes,
absolutely. So we have to compete to do things properly and to improve the quality of the life of people here and there. I'm glad you say that at the Mycetoma Center now we're adopting the open science policies.
Yes.
If you go to the website, everything is there. A lot of transparencies. All our SOPs are available there. Our guidelines is there. Our publication are there. And even the grants obtained over the years are there.
Yeah.
And in the grant, even the amount of money granted, it is there in the website. So we're adopting these open science policies. And we hope to do more, to adopt more of these principles and ideas about open science. Even have a manuscript for a paper with made in Japan, and we have as a preprint the idea and the proposal itself. So it's available there. And now the idea is there for the last 3 years. We did not finish the work yet, but still the idea and the proposal, it is deposited there, is there. So we're adopting these policies and procedures and strategies of open science in our. That is why now if you go to counter of the Mycetoma Research Center website, we almost about have more than 1,000 visitors per day. Am I right, Samira?
Yes, Prof.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
So this is
increasing the
good.
visibility. That's one of the main advantage of open science, is increasing the visibility of work.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if it wasn't there, no one would have access to it and no one would have been able to see it. Yeah.
Yeah. And the other
Actually,
side, sorry, please.
go ahead, Prof. Go ahead.
Again, the research gate,
Yes.
again, it is some sort of an open science,
Yep.
because everything is there in your research gate,
Yeah.
even your technical reports, your preprints, everything is there loaded at your research gate website.
Yeah.
Again, this is a very important. This now you have the linking, and linking again is open, some sort of open science process where you can see other people doing and there. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor.
Thank you, Prof. I have one comment regarding the publication and the open journal publications. I think this is we need to discuss it in a separate session, because there is many things people are actually complaining, especially from Africa, when they are trying to publish in international journals.
Yes.
We have problems in open access and also in closed journal with subscription. We have all the issues. This is a completely different story. But coming back to what Professor Fahal said, we learned from research that research actually usually you look into a research question or research problem, and sometimes you are looking for a knowledge gap, and this is where you start your research. So without dissemination of the research results, with the transparency, you are not going to contribute to the science. It's not only about who's going to publish this first. Once you do your research, after a very long time, after so much effort, you are going to publish it. And once it's published, it's become like an open recipe for everyone who can use it and recook it again. And this is all about research. You need to do very hard job. You do to participate with other people, and you need to disseminate information and make it available for other people to take it over and continue your research and improve it. So this is the principal action of research. If you are not open-minded, if you don't have the mentality to do an open collaboration with other people, you are not going to do research.
Yeah.
And quality of what published, this is completely something different. It's not directly affected by the open science. The quality of what you publish is the quality of what you publish. It needs to be created, it needs to be checked, and you need to make like you publish letters or whatever, comments on other publications if you feel that there is something wrong. And this is exactly what we are facing in the databases. Everyone can submit, for example, a protein sequence or DNA sequence and say that this is a protein coming from this organism and this is the function. And sometimes it's not correct. So you don't take anything published as granted. You have to check it, you have to create it. And this is why people, we have been advised before, and we advise our students to go for review articles in big journals, because this will be like some sort of creation of the data already has been published before. Don't go and rush for research articles, because it might contain good or bad things. And this is not because of the open science, this is because of the nature of publication. You publish something today, and after some time you feel that this is not correct, and you come back and correct it. I'm sorry for speaking a lot, but I'm just trying to make some comments and linking between publication quality and open science. Thank you.
Yeah, I think this is why we're having such sessions, is to discuss what is going on in the system, in the current publication system, and what's working, what's not working. But coming back to how open science ensures quality is by the fact that everything is out there. Open science, you don't just have open data, you have open methodologies, you have open data, you have open results, everything is open. So everything that you used or got out of this research is out there, it's open, you know? So having things open, sort of by sense or by default, make things more easily scrutinized and more easily, we can more easily pick the mistakes. Because, for example, someone might come, for example, in an article, you have the methodology, right? But it's not in details. It's not detailed. It's just, you know, snippets of the methodology. But if you have the whole protocol, and not just the protocol, the lab notebook, like even because, you know, when we're doing experiments, we have those lab notebooks that we scribble on. Even these open science encourages that they're open, you know, so that you have multiple checkpoints that you could go to sort of cross-reference and cross-check everything in this research and make sure that the findings are true and the results are true. Yeah. But thank you for the comment, Dr. Abdullah.
I think, Abdullah, nowadays, let us organize a session on where to publish and how to publish manuscript. But now most of the big journals, they require now to upload the raw data as well.
Yeah, yeah.
To remove the names of the patients and this and this.
Yeah.
Just for ethical issues. But they
Yes.
request to upload the data itself and to be available at the website, and people can see and to look into it, what is there and this and this. So again, this is a mandatory right now.
Exactly.
But how
Yeah.
to deal with the sensitive data, Professor Fahal? There is some regulations in the ethical committees and also in the government levels and everywhere not to share the data. And now many people, for example, when it comes to genome sequencing, they tend to acquire the sequencing facilities in their home country to avoid sending data to the sequencing centers, just to keep the sensitive data away of publicity.
Yeah.
How can we deal with this issue?
Well, this is again, this is an important issue that what type of data you have to put it there. But I remember just about a few months ago, we have a paper on extraepithelial mycetoma, and we were requested to upload all the data about these patients, only to remove the name as well as the locality of the patient.
Yeah.
And we did that. Otherwise, we were not able to publish that paper in the PLOS and the neglected tropical disease.
Yeah.
But not all countries accept this, Professor Fahal, unfortunately.
Absolutely. Yes,
Yeah.
you're right. So again, you have to look where you can publish the paper and without this and without that.
Yeah.
And this is a big issue, actually.
Yeah, and the good thing is that open science, you know, people think of open science as chaos, you know, just everything open, everything out there. But no, it actually has much regulation. So for example, for sharing data, we have the FAIR and CARE principles. We could talk about that. Of course, anything could be a whole session on its own or a whole training course. So you have, when you're uploading your data or making your data open, you have to go by the FAIR and CARE principle. And as I said, you don't have to do all the steps of open science, you know? You could simply take what is possible. So for example, if the data is, for example, something that is related to national security, like it doesn't make sense that you make this data open, because this will bring more harm than it will bring good to the community. So it's also about a risk-benefit ratio. But for example, as Prof. Fahad said, if you remove everything that would identify a patient, like their name, their locality, if they have like a certain, for example, in the Mycetoma Center, we have certain patient files, numbers. So if you remove all of this, it will make it next to impossible for the reader to know who this patient is. But it would also make the parameters that are important for the study available, because you don't really need the name of the patient or who the patient is in order to look at for example, the different clinical features that the patient have. So it's all very governed. I really don't want people to think that open means open in a chaotic way. Everything has rules and regulations and standards and guidelines by which it should be open. And also, if you say something is open, doesn't mean that you no longer have control over, because there are Creative Commons licenses that will govern. Like, for example, a presentation. Like, for example, if this presentation that I did, I could add a Creative Commons license to it, which makes everyone legally required to use or reuse this presentation according to my rules. Okay, for example, I could say that a CC BY 4 license would mean that if you want to reuse this presentation, you have to acknowledge that you got it from me. So again, yeah, open is not chaotic. It's really regulated and standardized. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to ask one more question. Do
No
you
worries.
feel that the North, what you call it, the
Global
North,
North.
global North, is more open to open science because they are interested in our data?
Yeah, that's the question that I think Samira would be laughing as well, because this is a discussion that we had during the local network leads training program, is that, you know, maybe this is another form of colonization. But, you know, we can think of so many conspiracy theories, and it could be, I cannot look at the intentions of everyone who's practicing open science in the global North. But this is why at AREN, we're trying to see what is not going to work for us in Africa. For example, as Professor Fahal said, pre-registration might not work for us in Africa, you know, because as Professor Fahad said, in Africa, we have limited resources. And for example, I could say that I want to do a research, but then for me to actually be able to start the research, it would take 2 or 3 years. So meanwhile, someone else could come and do this research. Again, I will have if I pre-registered the research, I will have the stamp in time that it always was my idea. It was my idea, but then, you know, I will not be able to do it myself. So, for example, if it's something that I really want to do, you know, we're not asking, like, open science is not asking people to be saints, because as Professor Fahad, there is some sort of competition that people need to do in order to advance. So one of the things, for example, that we're having alongside the discussions that we're having with the African communities, that things, for example, like pre-registration might not really work for Africa. It would not be fair. But if you come to look at it, we are the people who are in most need of open science, because we are in African scholars. Most of our institutions don't have subscriptions to the journals. We have to, unfortunately, utilize other, maybe not so legal ways in order to apply to get the knowledge. There is a lot of bias, unfortunately, when you are, as an African researcher, trying to publish in an international journal. There is already this predetermined bias that since this research is coming from Africa, it has low quality. So this is why, unfortunately, we see a lot of people maybe resolving to not publishing in high impact journals, even though in open science, we don't really believe in impact factor of journals. But one other issue is that the article processing charges, not all the journals provide waivers for article processing charges for Africans. And it's been proven that it has led African researchers to be praised to predatory journals, because they offer to publish for you in a smaller amount of money. So if you look at it, we have a lot to gain from it. So we should not think with the mentality of the conspiracy theory that, oh, maybe they are trying to get our ideas, because unfortunately, to be honest, they already have. Unfortunately, many of the African system is controlled by the West. So yeah, it could be. I cannot tell the intentions of everyone, but I think we should take what benefits us and leave what we think would not benefit us. I hope that answered the question, Dr. Abdullah.
Well,
Samira,
Lamis, if you allow me to add.
Yeah.
Well, actually, we as Africans and as young researchers, we are the ones who benefit more from open science. And I'd like also to highlight a point that Dr. Abdullah has said, and you've also said that it might be a new form of colonization. But however, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, for example, in February this year, they funded 3 research centers in Africa to study the pharmacogenomics of drugs. They've chosen some drugs to study them among African populations. So maybe it's not using our data, but it's more of a collaboration and just getting to know more, and and then shedding the light on what and then pointing what has been neglected before or what hasn't been studied before.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying the discussion. Thank you very much for
Thank you.
everyone.
Samira, yes?
Yes, Prof.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't have anything to say.
Okay, fine. I think this is a very nice discussion, and we need to go further in depth in these open science principles, strategies, and how we can apply it, how can we do it, and how can we get benefit of it, and how can we avoid the disadvantages of this open science. Let us continue talking about this topic. And Miss, you can give us another talk about open science ideas and this, so as to
Sure.
enrich our knowledge about this new concept of thing.
Sure.
Things are moving. For example, few years ago it was, I can say that in my experience. Now you cannot say in my experience, you can say evidence-based. And now people are talking from the closed access, not to the open access. And now moving from open access to open science. So I think every day you have a new things to know and to learn about it. And this is life. You have to always be up, with the development, with the innovation. So as you every time you educate yourself, and this is part of the continuing process of the personal development activities. I think now it is 11. It's 6:13. We are just more than 30 minutes over time. So Samira, can we close?
We scheduled it until 6:30. So we have
2:30.
until 6:30.
Half an hour.
Yeah. Okay,
yeah. Fine. All right.
So
Yeah.
what do you
Okay,
think? We
fine.
should proceed with the next
And
presentation?
I think we should postpone your presentation, Dr. Samira, maybe to the next session or maybe the week after, because it's
Okay.
better to give more time for the discussion, especially that this is a really hot topic, and it appears that it's only just like an awareness for now. We need dedicated sessions also for open science from Dr. Lamis and other participants, not to speak about open science in general, but to take only small parts and discuss it in more details. We need to know how can we adopt it, at least in the Mycetoma, between the different like African centers. Can we reach an area or a point that we are doing a real open science, not only by sharing data, but also by sharing facilities, by sharing like knowledge and expertise? Can we make like a network of maybe limited number of centers sharing everything? I think this will be a good example of practicing an open science, at least in a Mycetoma.
Yeah.
Definitely. It would be my pleasure. I can talk for years about open science and won't stop. Samira knows that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the idea is that so the way that we designed our training for the local network leads training program that Samira is part of is that it's on 3 levels. So the first level is about the knowledge. If you don't know about something, you won't be able to apply it. So for example, this session that I just shared with you was part of our level 1 training. We then moved on to talk about more specific pillars of open science. For example, what is reproducibility? How can we be reproducible? What are preprints? So I think it's important, or my recommended way of moving around this is first, we have a series of sessions that talks about open science and the open science practices. And then after we're done with that, we have another level, which is corresponding to the level 2 of our training program, is how to practice open science, how to put these things that we've talked about into action. But I don't know what you think about it, Dr. Abdullah and Prof. Fahad, and Samira as well.
If you allow me to add, and
Yeah.
of course, a part of the local network lead is that you become let's say, more of an ambassador in your community.
Exactly.
And actually, last week, I think we had an assignment of choosing a topic that will be the first topic you will be presenting to your community. And I think I chose open source, and I've been identifying some objectives. So regarding open science principles and practices, Lamis, I think I can help
That's amazing.
in these sessions.
Yeah. And that's the whole idea, you know, for us. Currently, we have trainees from over 20 African institutions. So the idea is that we have, for example, someone like Samira and me, of course, who are experts in open science, or not experts, of course, but well-versed in open science, and that will help their institution, like the MRC, move steadily towards being more open and adopting the open science practices. But yeah, I don't know how you think about it, Dr. Abdullah and Prof. Fahal, if you think we should continue in the awareness and knowing more about open science and then move to the application, or what do you think?
Abdullah, what do you think?
Maybe speak first and I'll comment on what you say.
I think this is a big issue. Let's have multiple sessions on this.
Okay.
So from time to time, we come back and discuss things and look into it and this and this and this. All right.
Okay.
And we can have examples, not just theoretical.
Yes. Yeah, I think that the best way is to go forward in open science is to have a practical applications. How can we apply what has been said today, or maybe what is going to be mentioned in the next sessions in a practical way, taking the Mycetoma Research Center as a model. We don't want just to make the Mycetoma Research Center an open science center, but we need to have a real open science collaboration with other centers. And we can take it from the mycetoma. We can do it for any like any discipline or any specialty, but because we are in the Mycetoma Research Club, try to do something practical. So if you could suggest for us like a practical application of open science, because it's not only about sharing data. I don't think sharing data is all about
definitely. It's
OSINT.
only one aspect of it.
Yeah. So let us try to do something more practical and more useful for the centers. We have been listening from centers and experiences from Senegal, from Ethiopia, from Kenya, and these all centers which we can be included in a practical model, trying to make something in common between these centers and practicing real open science.
I do agree with you 100%, Dr. Abdullah. But the thing is that open science is sort of, you know, a cohesive building. So for us together, because I don't want to be the one that would say, you know, this would work, let's do this and this. I would really like this, since especially in this club, we have people from many parts of the world who are interested in mycetoma. I want all of us to know what is out there. Like, how could open science be applied? For example, next session, I could talk about reproducibility. Samira could talk about open source. And then when we all have the knowledge of the different parts of open science, we could come with a robust plan, you know, that is not, you know, that is not just, that does not come from me or Samira per se, because let's say we know a bit more about open science, but all of us could contribute to make this plan. But I don't know what you think, Samira, because Samira has been part of this training program. You know, she's been in the first level, and then the second level, and now she's in the third level. But what do you think, Samira? What would be?
Well, I think we shall take the people through the principles, the pillars and activities of open science, so they can just know what's happening around. and then we can come out with a plan. However, I think the open science is very good in collaboration between centers scattered in different parts of the world.
Especially for mycetoma.
Yeah, for mycetoma. And we have seen people from Senegal, from Kenya, from Mexico, from the US, from almost all parts of the world. And open science would be of a benefit, especially in this situation. But people has to know more about its principles and pillars.
Yeah, for example, one idea that just comes into my mind, we could have like a sort of a central repository or website where, for example, all the centers collaborating with the MRC and all the centers working in mycetoma would deposit any case that they have, because we have many case reports of mycetoma, but they're scattered everywhere. But then if you could go to one place, example, one repository, where you could find all the case reports of mycetoma openly available, of course, without compromising the personal data of the patient. But like, for example, having them categorized by country, by causative organism, and then, for example, like these cases could be updated by the course of treatment, which treatment was given, the outcome of treatment. Like this is one of the first things that I'm thinking about, it would be amazing to have that in one centralized place than having, because we know the treatment of mycetoma is currently relying on case reports and case series. So having like actual real-time progression of cases in one place that someone could go to, and for example, click actinomycetoma and find the different cases listed by country, by causative organism, by different treatment that was taking, and the outcome of the treatment. This is one thing, but then this is from my perspective as a pharmacist. But I'm sure when we talk about the different open science aspects, different people who are, for example, surgeons, the different disciplines that work with open science will have different ideas that could be sort of incorporated into this central, like working entity of mycetoma. I don't know what you think about that.
This is a good idea. Excellent idea. So we can collect from the literature what is available as a clinical presentation of mycetoma and put there, and then people, it is a very good idea.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this is one way of being open, one way of having collaboration and being open at the same time. And this will benefit the mycetoma patient and will benefit the researchers on mycetoma.
But this is will be like doing a review article about the published cases of mycetoma. And I think the better idea, which has been mentioned already by Dr. Lamis, that it's better to have an interactive database that only concern about the active cases. Because when you are dealing with an active case, you already went to the literature, you already reviewed the literature, and you already have an accumulated experience in treating patients, and you are applying the best of knowledge you have at this particular patient at this particular time. So when I am a clinician in a remote area and I access this database, I will get like the latest practice and the latest update about the current active cases globally. But it's not like just going into the literature, retrieving the data, and just putting like a review article in a database. This is what
No, actually, I think, Dr. Abdullah, we can have the best of both worlds, We could have a place, well, like an archive, because these active cases will eventually be inactive, hopefully treated. So we have like an archive where we have try to collect the data that's out there.
Yeah,
and
the archive,
idea,
it's better to be developed into a model using the artificial intelligence to summarize everything, rather than just having a regular database. It will be very boring for and time consuming for any clinician or for any researcher to go and just dig into the old data. But if you have an artificial intelligence model that take all the cold cases, which is not active anymore, and try to make a conclusion out of that and adding all the incoming new patients, this will be much better.
Definitely.
Now, for example, you used to go to Google to make search about anything, but now we are using the ChatGPT, for example, to get the conclusion out of what has been published before. So I think it's better to make a database only for active cases, and the old cases and the cold cases all to be included in the database of this artificial intelligence model, and just to get the most of this data in a very quick way, rather than just using a classical data model.
Yeah, and this is why I was insisting that we first go through the different components of open science, because I'm sure 100%, like now this is an idea, but when we talk about the different open science aspect, this idea will be much, much more refined and much, much more better. For example, when we talk about reproducibility, like this is why, and for example, as I said, this is my idea because it came to me because I'm a pharmacist and I'm like mainly concerned about treatment, and I've been writing my thesis, and it's been really difficult, like getting the treatments that was in use out there. But I'm sure that each and every one of us will have a unique idea that could be incorporating in making research around open science, around mycetoma more open. Yeah. I see Dr. Ali, you have your hand raised. Sorry.
Good evening. Thank you very much for the presentation, and thank you very much. I appreciate this fruitful discussions, and I think that Dr. Lamis opened our mind to a unique area, which is open science practices or open science as general. I think if Professor allow me, we can, as Dr. Lamis said, if we made it an open science practice for mycetoma or something like that in the website, it will be a good idea and a good way for the scientists and all people working in this neglected tropical disease regarding collaboration, pre-registration, and facilitate or even collaboration research from many countries around the world that maybe they have some difficulties in finding data regarding mycetoma. If we can call it, for example, open science practices in mycetoma or something like that, and people can re-register and then submit their research, their hypotheses, their questions, their reports, even the reviews in this open science practice. For example, for mycetoma, it will be better and good way for collaboration and working together and getting knowledge from here and that and those like this one. I think it's a good idea from Dr. Lamis to build like this open science practice, for example, for mycetoma, and put it in the website, and then everyone can put. This will facilitate the pre-registration, the collaborations, and preprints, and research and reviews. It facilitates many things for people, and will be a good idea. I think that.
I would just like to say something, Dr. Ali. I wouldn't, the idea is that we don't want to reinvent the wheel. And especially when it comes to pre-registration, there are certain places where it's sort of accepted globally that, this is where you pre-register your study. So I wouldn't, I would try, I would recommend that we should utilize what's out there, we should try to use the tools that are already available instead of us trying to reinvent the wheel and redo all of the tools ourselves. So for example, the Center of Open Science, they are known to be a place where you can pre-register your studies. There are many tools, that we could use. And this is why, again, I emphasize that we need to learn more about open science before starting to make decisions and generating ideas, because I'm sure with each session that we have, we will have more ideas and for example, there are preprint servers. There are some, for example, there's a platform called Octopus, where it makes each part of the research as a publication. It has a DOI. For example, your hypothesis it has a part for you to put it in there. You can put a DOI, you can like easily cite it, you know, this is a hypothesis. Your data could have a DOI or methodology. So I would really encourage collaboration with the amazing global community and the global initiatives that are out there. For example, we have Africa Archives. We could, for example, have them like make a special part of their archives to mycetoma, you know, or bioarchives. So there are many things that we could do, but I would really encourage for us to utilize what is out there instead of us trying to do everything from scratch on our own. Yeah.
Yeah. I think all these are very good and novel ideas, and we can work on them,
Yeah.
and then we can apply these ideas in our practice and our patient care, for research and for communication and for collaboration with different international research institutes. So I think Ali idea as well as Lamis ideas are very nice. And let us, and Abdullah idea again, let us work on this and come with something concrete and put it in the website so as to be part of the open science principle and our strategies.
So, Lamis, I see that there's a question in the chat.
Sorry, I didn't see it. What's
Oh,
the
it's okay.
difference between open access and open resources? Well, open access is an open resource. Open access means mainly access to, like it's mainly applied for the articles, you know, the published articles, they are made open access, meaning that everyone could read them. But unfortunately, for an article to be open access, the authors of the article have to pay, and they have to pay a ridiculous amount of money. For example, to publish in Nature, you have to pay around $12,000 for your article to be open access, which is just ridiculous, you know. So open access is one of the open resources that Open Science promotes. There is also open data, so that now there are repositories where that you can deposit your data in a very safe way, and you have like control over your data. There is open methodologies. There is open pre-registration. As I said, there is so many open source. So there are many open resources that you can use, and one of them is open access. I hope that answered your question, Tasabih. Thank you.
Prof, would you like to add something?
No, thank you very much. I think this is a very nice discussion, and let us work on these ideas and let us implement them in our daily practice. Thank you very much, Lamis, and thank you, Abdullah, and other people contributing to this nice and very objective discussion.
And Prof, we've launched the Mycetoma tutorial group.
Yeah.
Well, the Mycetoma tutorial group will be a group where if you have any queries on a presented topic, for example, Lamis today was speaking about open science. So if you have any query about anything in Lamis' presentation, so you can just contact me either through WhatsApp or our email researchclub@mycetoma.edu.sd, and we will get you with the person, and we can also have a tutorial on that if it's much a bigger topic.
Okay. Okay, I think this is another good idea. Let us work on this idea so as we can have more in-depth discussion about certain things. For example, you can have a very discussion and tutorial on how to perform a culture for mycetoma patients, mycetoma specimen. How can we use the bioinformatics to identify molecules and this and this and this? So that will be a very in-depth discussion about certain things by certain groups and by certain facilitators. Thank you very much. Okay, Samira, shall
Yes,
we call today because now it is 6:30.
yeah, and we're almost 5 minutes.
Yeah, I don't want to keep the people for a long time
Yeah.
here. Yeah.
So it was really nice having you all here today, and we hope that you enjoyed the amazing session and discussion. And we look forward to having you all in our upcoming sessions, and we hope that you all have a wonderful day. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Bye-bye.
much. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Samira,
Yes, Prof.
let the people know that this is available at the website, the recording.
Okay, the recordings for all of our sessions are available on the website. You'll just when you open the website, write down and on your right hand you'll find Research Club, and then when clicking on there's resources and events. So the recordings are available on the events section, and then the presentations are available on the resources section.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye. Have a wonderful
Bye.
day.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.